So let's talk food waste and let's talk ice. We see that 16% of all food waste in America is said to occur on the farm level. Okay. And I've seen another site, it's like a recycling site that claims it's more like maybe 40%. So I get all kinds of different numbers from sites, and they're there to kind of confuse the issue. So people will say things like, well, that's not the number I get. Just like I got it with the divorce rates. I still don't know what the exact divorce rate is in America, and you think that they would know that statistic. But we'll talk about that another day. Let's talk about food waste and ice. So there's all these people who are hungry in America. I get different numbers when it comes to child hunger. 1 in 5 to 1 in 8 American children go to bed hungry. And at the same time, we see this a massive amount of food waste in America, just like it is with the people starving to death all over the world. Somewhere around 25,000 people starve to death every day in the world, and something like 10,000 of them are children. But the world grows enough food every year to feed everybody. How could that be? We see that the people on this planet are growing enough food to feed everybody, yet 9 million people or so starve to death every year. We see that 16% of food waste in America, again, is on the farm level. I don't think you people are understanding what I'm saying here. And we see that children are going to bed hungry, and there's a lot of adults who are hungry as well. I said this twice for effect. You need to understand what I'm telling you. Just like when I bring up ice. So why is ice dead wrong? First of all, it's how they come at it. You see a bunch of rowdy pirates dress up like law enforcement, and they start beating people up and saying that's what you get for not, worshiping the same deities as the pirates or being the same race or from the same country. It's stupid. It's sick, right? If there's a bunch of people in a fraternity and one of them is raping some female all the time and beating her up, okay, and they're playing stupid about it. And one day she escapes and she runs out and she starts yelling and making a big fuss. And they grab her and they beat the shit out of her with a certain white supremacist intolerance that we see, for example, with ICE. A certain spirit of intolerance that we see with white supremacists. Who's in the right and who's in the wrong? It's basically that simple. The internationalists that govern the world, okay, are disproportionately white and Jewish and LGBT. They have no tolerance for people who are actually human beings and not some monster who abuses people. And they messed up all the countries in the world, including America. You say, well, America's the greatest country in the world and all this stuff. Okay, how come there's so many rapes in America? 1 in 4 women are raped. With all this money, all this law enforcement, we're in the information age, all this education, why can't you teach people not to rape? Why can't you teach women to date with a fair scale and for guys not to rape? Because they're responding to the injustice in society where we see that males are raising women to date in a way that's foolish, and that's why there's so many divorces, so much domestic violence, because they're dating some kind of scumbag, and people tend to be open books. If you date some arrogant white supremacist narcissist, he might give you a black eye. If you date Debo from Friday instead of the nicest of guys in the hood, be it a thug or otherwise, okay, he's probably going to give you a black eye, so to speak. I mean, this isn't rocket science. When you shun the most righteous person ever and date a bunch of scum that a corrupt government has approved of, you're probably going to suffer abuse because they did not choose to be righteous. They chose to conform to a society where police brutality is, through the roof, where they throw away food while children are hungry, where they won't build rehabs, where no matter how much tariff money comes in and doesn't come in, they refuse to build rehabs with it, where they refuse to build housing for homeless people, where they're hoarding this wealth. When you see wealth hoarding, you see child rape through the roof, you see rape in general through the roof, you see the food issues I brought up happening, you see all the substance abuse going on, etc., etc. These are symptoms of poor governance. If I was in charge, these problems would nowhere near be as significant, as common, what have you. Pretty straightforward. I saw a video, I've seen a bunch of videos from, about ICE that are very disturbing. If you know that America's watching you and they're complaining about you and they're recording you, why are you acting like monsters? Pretty straightforward. You're supposed to have body cameras and stuff like that too. So why are you acting like animals? There's one video, this guy is wrestling like 3 or 4 ICE agents. You know, they take him to the ground. One of them stops to pull out a baton and smack him in the legs. Well, why didn't you grab his legs and hold him down or help these other guys wrestle him? Why did you stop and pull out a baton and smack him? He wasn't kicking anybody, nothing. He just freshly hit the ground. And we're talking very sick people here. And they're in the spirit of countless toxic and racist white supremacists who are in law enforcement, who are in the government, and there's whitewashed people who are like them. People in Freemasonry and different groups, right? Police fraternities who are like token minorities trying to impress them, trying to become into the same spirit as they are in, so they're included, so they have some kind of a support network. And you have mental health drugging people, including whistleblowers, and saying that they need a stronger support network. When everywhere you look, you see people who are racist MAGA people, crazy woke people. You see crazy people in every group you can think of. Gang members, corporate groups, political groups, acting crazy. That is poor governance. And look at how much they spend on mental health. They spend so much, billions and billions of dollars are spent on mental health every year in America. But everywhere you look, you see crazy motherfuckers. It is unbelievable. Okay, there's more crazy people in the streets by far than there are crazy people in the psych wards and in the jails. I mean, it's like Looney Tunes. It's insane. Animaniacs, Itchy and Scratchy, you know, from some cartoon. I forgot what it's The Simpsons, if I'm not mistaken. The Devil from Cow and Chicken. It is lunacy. It's like everyone's lost their minds, and some people, they lose their minds in a way they're more like Eeyore. They're just kind of moping around. Whether it's raining or not, they're moping around. And some people lose their minds more like, you know, a cartoon. Like a psychotic gay cartoon character, whether they're gay or straight. There's various spirits out there. It's just poor governance. And these monsters, these maniacs, are trying to make themselves look good by driving everyone crazy and sabotaging them and fuming them and poisoning them. There's stuff in the air and the food. And there's stuff that the government knows is there. They put it there on purpose. There's substances and materials for mind control, aka controlling the moods, sentiments, emotions, and behaviors of individuals and groups. So there are very straightforward and obvious problems, right? Why don't they pass a law where they say, you know, that the food that they're wasting must be gathered up and distributed to the poor? It's very straightforward. Some people might say, well, those people who sell that food don't want to sell less at the store. Then you increase SNAPs. Instead of cutting SNAPs, which cost them money, and you don't see them scrambling to stop that, they could increase SNAPs by a few billion or so, whatever it would take to even it out. That's not a big deal. But we don't see them doing it. For example, you could slightly increase tariffs to bring in another couple billion a year. What's the big deal? But they don't do that. Because it's that toxic and sadistic spirit of white supremacy and sexual control. If they're not acting like a maniac, beating people up, encouraging people to beat people up, you know, they're making porn and expressing it that way. And they're coercing women and sexually harassing them. Long ago in Nigeria and in places all over the world, indigenous peoples did not live in societies that had anywhere near the sexual harassment, the rape, what have you. Because people were governed more effectively. When you're dealing with tons of different people, we see time and time again, when you try to enforce that white cultural scale, it's a disaster. Even if it's on white people. When the Romans went through Europe enforcing their white cultural scale on white people, it was a disaster. When the Goths did the same thing, Visigoths, you name it, Huns. We see time and time again. There's no sign that the Saxons or the Teutons or the Normans did any better. The Greeks. Greece was a rape-cult slave master society. As many as 50% of Greeks were said to be slaves. So they're raping people, they're enslaving them, they're beating them up, they're pushing them around. Now, I'm not racist here. Because when we live in a world of white world supremacy, in that sense, white Jew and LGBT supremacy, it behooves us to analyze the oppressor's culture and to say, hey, what do we think is wrong? When you insist on being in charge, like a president or a politician, the Congress, the government, okay, people are right to say, hey, this is what I think is wrong. It's not the same as being racist. So I want people in ICE to stop being so brutal. I want people to build a region for immigrants and stop beating them up and deporting them after you messed up their countries. I want people to take responsibility for messing up their countries and planting proxy dictators, puppet dictators. You think that developed nations are the only nations that have puppet dictators? Well, who's pulling the strings? That's why I ask all you Republicans, who do you think is pulling the strings of people in El Salvador and Venezuela and Mexico? Who do you think is pulling their strings? It's the globalists who are disproportionately white, Jewish, and LGBT. All you people who claim that there's this massive Jewish conspiracy, yeah, to some degree there is, but there's also a white and LGBT conspiracy, and there's token minorities helping them. I said it many, many times. I don't just blame the Jews. If the Jews were behind it, how come Israel is such a, it looks like Cleveland or something? And they get hit by rockets all the time? Is London being hit by rockets all the time? Is Paris? Is New York? Is Bel Air, Beverly Hills? No. Dubai is better than Israel when it comes to, nice houses and buildings. London is better. So many places are better. If they rule the world and that is their main country, why is it so mediocre? Why are they so disorganized and chaotic? Why are they put front and center as an example of what not to do and how not to govern? Obviously, there are people who are seen as having it together more than rich Jews, who are very influential as well. Rich English, rich French, going to Cambridge, those types of people, crests and fancy suits and fancy dinners. Not someone that in popular culture, every time you turn around, it looks like Weinstein or Epstein. These are the people that they're playing out for a contrast game. But they're very rich, they're very involved as well.